The Trump trial has its jurors. All of them have now been selected, sworn in, opening argument starting on Monday. Now, what happened today is things were pretty tense out there. Not only were jurors crying, you can see this came out from Katie Fang. She does MSNBC stuff. She says she was there reporting. We've got a few prospective jurors that have announced during voir dire that they're too anxious to sit on this jury. Oh no. And a few have actually broken down in tears. They're stressed, man. Political prosecutions are pretty troubling in this country, so I can understand that. Stress being increased for people who have no experience with any of this. They're saying, wait a minute, you want me to go and find Trump innocent? Are you kidding me? In New York, you want me to be the juror that finds Trump innocent? You want to give me the death penalty too? Would you like me to be eliminated as well? You're giving me a death warrant. Thanks for that. So they all, everybody's stressed out, freaked out about it. In fact, things got so bad, some dude lit himself on fire, right? And this is not good. So we'll just talk a little bit about this, but it was horrific. Okay, there's videos flying all over the place on X. I'd avoid them if you could, but it's not good. This guy was so-called researcher named Max, 37, set himself on fire, right? And it was on fire. And apparently he's still alive. I can't believe it after having watched a bit of it. But police described the incident as propaganda-based. He was there. He had signs. A lot of people on both sides are trying to point the finger at left. They're saying, this is a typical Trumper. They just light themselves on fire. They're insurrecting their corpse. You're like, wow, that's really pretty intense insurrection there. So, they're pointing fingers every which way. My take on it, dude is obviously not well. That's, anybody who sets themselves on fire, probably not, fully there. So, peace to his family. And, I don't know what's going on with him, but it's not good. Horrifying scenes. He was seen kneeling with his hands behind his head, engulfed in flames, and everybody was out there, right? So, if you really want to dig into this stuff, it's pretty morbid, but flames go up. Everybody, even the news media, is like, what the heck's going on over there? So, not good. He was seen kneeling with his hands behind his head. Officers rushed the scene to extinguish the flames. He was taken away in a gurney. He was throwing pamphlets, and nobody knows what he was really there doing. I think he was kind of there protesting both sides of it. So, Trump came out. Don't think the fire had happened yet when he was speaking on this one. So this was before all that took place. Of course, we are waiting for jury selection to start. We're going to be jumping in with inner city press, but this is Trump speaking before the day got underway.
People know it's very unfair. The gag order has to come off. People are allowed to speak about me, and I have a gag order, just to show you how much more unfair it is. And the conflict has to end with the judge. The judge has a conflict, the worst I've ever seen, and it has to end with the judge. The gag order has to come off. I should be allowed to speak. Every time I come out to speak to you, I want to be open because we did absolutely nothing wrong. I showed you yesterday 32 stories of experts, legal experts, and I don't have one the other way. 32 stories of legal experts saying very strongly there's no case, this occasion has been brought. Trump did nothing wrong, and they say it strongly. Trump did nothing wrong. So they ought to get rid of the conflict with the judge because that's something that he cannot do anything about. It's wrong. And the second thing is I have to be released of a gag order. They've taken away my constitutional rights to speak, and that includes speaking to you. I have a lot to say to you, and I'm not allowed to say it. And I'm the only one. Everyone else can say whatever they want about me. They can say anything they want. They can continue to make up lies and everything else. They lie. They're real scum. But you know what? I'm not allowed to speak, and I want to be able to speak to the press and everybody else about it. So why am I gagged about telling the truth? I'm only telling the truth. They're not telling the truth. The judge has to take off this gag order. It's very, very unfair that my constitutional rights have been taken away. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they don't gag you if you say a bunch of untrue, crazy things. Right? You just run your mouth. Okay, that's crazy. Just let that guy keep running his mouth. Nobody cares what he says. They censor you when it's true. They gag you when it's true. When Trump comes out and says that the judge's daughter is running advertisements promoting the indictment in her daddy's courtroom, he can't talk about it. Why? Because it's true. That's obviously why. So, all right, that is Trump. Now, we're going to jump into the day's affairs. And Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee was there reporting, and he, of course, is outstanding. We encourage you to follow. So here is where we're at. The day is Friday, day 4 of trial. We took Wednesdays off, back on Friday, waiting for the day to get in session. Everybody's there, seated at the tables. Boom! Judge walks in. All rise. Oh, gosh, this guy again. All right, sit back down. Please be seated. Clerk says, this is the time set for the case of people of the state of New York versus Donald Trump, CR 2024, whatever. Judge says, okay, good morning, everybody. Now, I'm told that all 22 jurors are already here. Any reason we can't bring them all in here to get started? He says, we're working on the temperature, by the way, in the courtroom. And this is an insert from Matthew. He says, it is cold, man. It's cold. Judge Merchan, after the jurors walk in. Good morning, jurors. Now, we're going to explain what's happening this morning. You're about to answer the questionnaire. here, the one that we've already gone through here. So please begin by reading your 3-digit number out loud. Starting with you, madam, go. She says, I'm 428. I have anxiety, is what she says. Probably sounds like that too. I may not be able to not be emotional. People can figure out I'm here just from not being present. Next, 441. Ma'am, tell us about yourself. She says, well, I'm originally from Spain. I'm currently not working though. I have hobbies though. I like art and I like special events, and I don't belong to any organizations, and I've never been on a jury. I used to watch the news, but I don't do that anymore. And do I listen to podcasts? No, never. It's pretty rude. She said that she's reading out each question before answering it. So she's going through every one of them, reading it and then answering it. 23, do you take any drugs? I only take Tylenol. And 24, I'm flexible. You know, I don't work. I did not sign up for any newsletters from Mr. Trump, and I don't even have Snapchat. The judge says, all right, lady, listen, you don't need to read the questions, okay? Just give us your answers, okay? Let's speed this up here. She said, okay, well, I've never read any of those books, and I give my assurances that I'm not going to discuss this case with anyone. Says, thank you. All right, you're done. How about you, ma'am? 706, another woman. Says, I live in Hell's Kitchen. I'm from the Bronx originally. I work for some organization. What do I like to do? TV on the couch is my favorite hobby. And I like the Yankees. I used to be an amateur boxer. Okay. I've been assaulted a couple of times, probably the real kind, not the Bergdorf kind. And I had my cell phone stolen. I might have read The Art of the Deal when I was younger. Any reason I can't be fair? No. Next one, 644, another woman. Well, I've thought about it, and I don't think I could be impartial, right? So she says, yesterday, any reason anybody cannot participate? Her hands, down. No, I'm good. You sure? Any reason you can't be fair? Nope, I'm good. Thinks about it the next day, comes back. No, I hate this dude. I'm out of here. All right, you're excused. Next, 616. I work in IT. I could help you fix those microphones. Shout out to the IT guy. I work in IT. Your microphones have some loose cabling there. Let me go get my tool bag. I'll fix all these for you. Click, 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 all these things. It would be useful. Can you turn on the live stream too while you're there? Yeah, I'll give you the RTMP numbers, okay? He says, I live in Inwood. I work somewhere. I really don't use Facebook. I listen to one podcast, which is called The Order of Man. Sounds interesting. Next, 447. This is another man. He says, well, I work for a large hospitality group. We got 6,000 employees, and my wife is a grant coordinator. Hobbies? Well, running while watching TV. Mostly YouTube. My man. My wife is a lawyer, but she does not practice. I follow the White House on Instagram, so I got Mr. Trump's posts. Next, 520. A woman. She says, I live in the Gramercy neighborhood. I read the New York Times, the Post, the Wall Street Journal, Fox News. I have an Instagram account, but I only use it for fashion and style. Don't really have a significant amount of followers either. Any reason you can't be fair? No. 624. A woman says, I work for publicly traded fintech company with a certain number of employees. I like to take my sons to Nick games, and we have Rubik's Cube solving contests. Someone tried to hack my 401k one time, and that was pretty irritating. 445 is a man. He lives in the financial district, is originally from Europe. We founded an investment boutique firm for startups. I traded derivatives, trading in London. I am married, 2 adult children, and 1 stepson. And I don't know what he does for a living. 445 says, I don't read much news except for Y Combinator. Judge says, what? Y Combinator. Judge, it's for startups. I listen back to NPR and Fox News. That's interesting. They're remarkably different. That's true. My grandfather was a commissioner at a local municipality. And as to question 19, this is the question. Any have a close relative related to a conviction? Yeah, I did. I had a relative who was close. It was difficult, but the system seemed to do well. 445 is here. A question. Do you know who Mark Pomerantz is? No, I don't know who Mark Pomerantz is. Okay. Now, 483 is another woman. She didn't give her number either, just started talking, but Inner City Press had it. She says, I was in the music industry and I was on the management side. Now I'm at a large educational institution. I'm not married, no children. I live alone with my dog, I like to watch hockey, and I'm on the board of my synagogue. I listen to the New York Times, mostly NPR. Now, I'd like to attend Cedars in Jersey, both Monday and Tuesday. Okay, would ending at 2 p.m. work for you if we ended Monday and Tuesday for Passover? She says, yeah, that would work great. And any reason you can't be fair? No. 647 is a man. Says, I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I was a teacher for a location for a school. I advocate for funding for the CUNY. Not going to pronounce that one. 647 comes in and says, Citizens United is the law of the land, but I do favor that everything should be made public. Talking about, I guess, campaign finance. Now, can I jump to 26? Says the woman. 800 is next. I'm going to skip all these. How about number 26? I don't think I can be impartial. And she's, okay, well, you can step aside. So she's gone, right? So she, again, made the first cut, comes back, not the second cut. Next, 456. This is a man. He says, I live in the Upper East Side with my wife. I like to go outside, anything but sitting in front of a computer all day. I signed up for Facebook when I was in high school, but I don't use it. Wall Street Journal, NPR, their podcast. I think it's pre-recorded though. And I was in private wealth management. Can you be fair? Sure. 561's a man. He says, let me say, I'm in an investment fund that's into a podcast company that produces Mea Culpa. That's Michael Cohen's podcast. My fault, right? Mercon says, okay, thanks for letting us know. You may proceed. 561 says, well, I'm with a private equity fund. I'm a partner. We have about so many number of employees, and I don't have any kids. Mainly, I read the New York Times. If I put on the news, it's MSNBC. Some thefts, including home burglary. A lot of burglaries, right? A lot of people have been robbed, mugged, assaulted. It's New York, man. It's crazy. But Trump's spreadsheets were really bad, though. We got to go get them. I voluntarily worked for Get Out the Vote during the Clinton campaign. Oh, that's great. She's perfect. I attended the Women's March, and there's no reason I can't, any reason you can't be fair or impartial. She says, no, I can be totally fair. I only watch MSNBC, literally volunteered for Hillary Clinton and attend the Women's March. But no, I can be totally fair. Crazy. I live in Chinatown, says 557, another woman. Says, I live in Chinatown, high school diploma. 596 is another woman, going fast now. She lives uptown. Before that, in New Jersey and some other part of Tennessee. Now, I got a BS in mechanical engineering, married, no children. I practice yoga. I use Google for my search engine capabilities, and I have an X account, and I listen to the Random Pod. Says, I listen to talk radio when I'm down south and I have to drive a lot. I have several close friends who are felons. I'm good with the time as long as we get to eat. Any reason you can't be fair? No. Judge says, thank you. She says, you're welcome, Judge. She had a personality, that one, didn't she? Of course she did. 588 is a woman. Says, my father's a good personal friend of a former governor, and I have a BA in psychology. Says, I walk in Central Park. I get my news from Bloomberg, the terminal at work, and which is, a Bloomberg terminal, must be in finance. I listen to the Daily, but, it's a little too depressing for me. Says, I'm Jewish, but at 2 p.m. on Monday and Tuesday, that would be fine. Michael Cohen's son works at my company. I could work with him, but I haven't yet. Wow. So works with the Star Witness's son. Works with Michael Cohen's son at his company. Incredible. Now, I have a relative, so I don't know what happened to that guy. 651 says, I have a relative, this is a man, who is a court officer in this room. It's like, what the heck? Did they just go through their contacts list? They're like, hey, we need some jurors. Get Michael Cohen's contact list and Stormy Daniels and this court officers too. Let's put them all in one room. I have a relative who is a court officer in this room. I live in Midtown. I used to work for this organization. Now, I'm not married. I've never been married. No kids. Trying to find a wife in my spare time. So I can stay as long as you like. I'll listen to your instructions and do whatever you want. 468's a woman. Says, I live in Chelsea. I'm from Florida. I'm a corporate lawyer. So is my husband. I do leverage finance and markets. We have lawyer friends. I have an uncle who served time in prison, and I was young. I don't really know the details, right? These lawyers are dangerous because, the high power, big firm law firms are ultra left. 468. We got her. 620's here. She says, another woman. I'm divorced. I have 3 boys. I do whatever my kids want me to do in my spare time. So whatever they want. 662 is another woman. She says, you guys keep calling me back for jury service, but I already did time in prison. So I don't know why you keep calling me back. I'm like, well, we need you. You're the muscle. You're going to get any of the holdouts who want to acquit Trump. So the judge is like, okay, please approach. Like, okay. After a sidebar, 662 says, sorry, I cried, Your Honor. I used to be a dental hygienist, but now I can't do that legally because of my felon record. I have a child in the U.S. Army and another one wants to be a politician or a lawyer. Do I have a hobby? Yeah, I FaceTime my kids and I actually have 3 grandchildren now, but I don't watch the news. I had a long time, so I try to keep it chill now. I was a victim of domestic abuse as well. Now, she was in prison, apparently. She talks about this. She says, Catholic is what our background is. I don't go to Trump's rallies, and I don't know anyone who does. I'm a firm believer that when people do something, they should be accountable. It's probably from my experience in prison. 763 is a woman. She lives in Battery Park City. Said, I did participate in the Women's March. Perfect. And posted it on Instagram. I listened to podcasts about entrepreneurship and reality TV. I was mugged when I was younger. No reason I can't be impartial. They take a break in 10 minutes and says, Mercon comes out. Says, we've been in touch with the commissioner of jurors. She is disqualified today, and I'd like to bring her in and explain it to her. Any questions about that? Saying the record of the sidebar will be sealed. So she calls the juror back up to 662 and says, I have been in touch with the commissioner of jurors, okay? The mere fact that you did time should not disqualify you. You can get a certificate. And she says, thank you. She turns to the judge and says, good luck. There's laughter in the courtroom. So she's out of here. Other jurors come back in. They bring them back in. Now it's the prosecutor's time to question them. Now the lawyers will question you, ladies and gentlemen jurors. Madam Government, you're up. Her name's Susan Hoffinger. She comes up. She says, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. They're buttering them up. Says, okay, this case is not about Donald Trump being a former president, okay? And it's not about running for office again. The question here today is not about politics. The question is, ladies and gentlemen, could you be fair? How about you, 441? I have no objection. You won't prejudge a person before what they've previously said? He says, well, the burden of proof is subjective to each juror, right? She says, well, there is only one burden of proof. If someone wrote a book or did a podcast critical of Mr. Trump, would you listen to that? Yes, I would. 588 now starts breaking down. Oh my gosh, she starts busting up into tears. She's sobbing her eyeballs out. She's sitting down. They're like getting ready to come to her, right? Prosecutor, can you be fair? She's like, bust out. I feel so nervous and anxious. She's sobbing. I thought I could do this. I wouldn't want someone on my jury that was this anxious. I'm sorry if I've wasted your time. The judge is like, calm down, madam. Come on up here. Come up to the sidebar. Relax. Talks to her for a minute. Juror is excused. Hoffinger, the prosecutor, says, oh gosh, I didn't even ask you anything yet. Golly. All right, we're going to be showing you a lot of documents here today, ladies and gentlemen. 445, sir, you're someone who's pled guilty in the past. Will you keep listening to the documents? He says, well, people are complicated. And what you're doing here is important, and so I'm not going to prejudge anything. So if we do our job and prove his guilt, what will your verdict be, sir? Guilty. And if we didn't prove it, not guilty. Good answers. Smart. How about you? Next juror. She says, well, if you prove it, I'll find him guilty, and if not, not guilty. So guilty then. Yes, guilty. She says, thank you. So then she sits down. She does that little bit for a bit, and we come back. Now, Trump's lawyer comes up. Her name is Susan Nicholas. She says, ladies and gentlemen here, I appreciate your candor here with the court and the tribunal today. We are trying to understand biases, okay? And what you heard from that prosecutor over there from the government, what she said was just her opinion. Do you have any problem with putting aside her opinion that she tried to cram down your throats? If witnesses have committed perjury and a juror who read out the questions, the one previously, she says, well, it depends. And someone says, could I approach the bench? And the sidebar comes out and somebody else, could I approach please too? And this other juror says, through this line of questioning, I'm getting the same anxiety and doubt. Judge nukes that person too. Just losing him. Cracks again. Excused. So defense attorney Nicholas for Trump says, to a juror whose employer, they ask about the employer, what do you think? Could you set aside those biases? So, well, if a person said that they were hurt in Rikers, but they're on Facebook at Coachella, moving around, I'd have to save the clip. What? Okay, but you were at a women's march, right? Yeah. And it was anti-Trump, wasn't it? No, I would say it's not anti-Trump. It's about women's solidarity, right? Remember we talked about this earlier. No, that's why they asked, are you anti-Trump? No, clearly I'm not anti-Trump. I'm just pro-save the planet, pro-women, pro-anti-racism, not anti-Trump, whatever, right? So that's how they squeeze them in here. But you don't like Trump's policies. Well, I don't really know what they are. Okay, so what were you doing there in women's solidarity? What was that for? Who were you fighting against, in solidarity against? Well, what's your view of President Trump, the guy who listens to The Order of Man, the podcast? He says that doesn't matter. Well, you're going to hear that President Trump was unfaithful. Would that impact your decision since you listen to The Order of Man? No, it wouldn't. Another juror says, well, I saw Trump as just a normal person like me. And how about you, juror 624? What's your opinion of President Trump? Well, no strong opinions. And you, 445? Well, I have 5 answers for you. Person, politician, businessman. Almost sounds like that mind test that Trump did. Camera, dog, person, elevator. I don't know him. He's a family man. You see his results. It's tricky with the Republican Party. I like low taxes. This guy's great. I like less regulations for startups too. But the Republicans, putting religion into people's lives and women's bodies, is where we part ways. All right. So there was something you didn't want to discuss though. He says, well, I'm okay discussing it at the sidebar, and so we'll take it up there. So he's a small businessman. Now, Nicholas continues to 647. How about you? What's your opinion of President Trump? They say, well, there's been so much thrown around, I try to ignore it. Have you made any social media posts about Trump? I don't remember. I mainly post about schools. How about 456? That's a pretty nice number. Are you going to play it today? She says, I have friends on both sides. Are you going to play it straight maybe or something like that? Well, she says, I have friends on both sides. So I can, sure. Now, how about you, next juror? Have you posted anything about Trump? Says, well, in 2016, I think I probably did. And probably about the insurrection. That guy's got to go. I used to see Trump Tower as a symbol when I came from New Jersey. Now it's a symbol of lies against people. And I'm reasonable and fair. Okay, buddy boy. You're reasonable. You might want to go look up the definition of an insurrection then, or watch some of our videos. Judge Mercan says, jurors, I'll ask you to step outside. Thank you for all answering the questions. And now we got some decisions to make. So then they leave and the jurors are now out of the courtroom. Judge Mercan is addressing the attorneys, says, now as to seat 2, are there any challenges? Seat 2 is the alternate to. How about seat 3? Any objections? And Trump's defense says, yeah, we object to seat 3 for sure. She said that Trump enables homophobic and racist comments. Typical MSNBC viewer. And the prosecutor says, well, but she said she doesn't hold him responsible for his followers. So she called him homophobic and racist, but is not responsible for those comments. Judge says, okay, bring her in. She says, okay, walk us through what you said about Trump. So she takes the seat, juror 3. She posts something like, well, his followers feel emboldened by his rhetoric. Now, there were speeches like the both sides thing. Does that make sense? She's like, I was upset about him because of I think that's the Charlottesville hoax is probably what she's talking about. Remember the fine people hoax where Trump said that there were fine people on both sides, and there's like, oh, he's talking about like white supremacist Nazis. He called Nazis fine people. It's like, that's not what he said at all. You guys all took it out. Read the transcript. It's clear as day. But Biden is still regurgitating that. So this poor woman has had her mind brainwashed by the MSNBC propaganda. And so she says his followers feel emboldened. So it's followers. I don't hold it against him. Does that make sense? The judge says, could you separate things? Oh yeah, clearly I could. And how about the boxing community? You were talking about the boxing community? Well, she said it felt like people were emboldened to judge me as a woman in that space. There were issues in that community, in the boxing community. I live in Hell's Kitchen. It's a very progressive space. So she leaves. Thanks for clarifying some of that. Nicholas says, Your Honor, we gotta excuse her. She feels President Trump emboldened discrimination against her personally. Says, well, I think the safer course is just to grant excusal for cause. We should just get rid of her. Okay, so seat 5 becomes alternate 3. Seat 8 becomes 4. How about seat 11? Defense says, yeah, strike for cause. Why? Well, he posted about that massive anti-Trump rally by the United Nations. They show the post. Judge looks at it. He says, well, what's this post? He says, the post says, enormous crowds, great signs, I love New York. A sign contains profanity on here. Another sign, well, he posted my sentiment exactly. It's like, it's a great, enormous crowds, great signs, I love New York. He's like, I kind of agree with this. What's wrong with this, says the judge. He says, well, you could bring him in to question him. Judge says, fine, bring him in. B647, you come in. Now, judge says, now you said you didn't remember posting some of these comments. The lawyers found some, so I'm going to show you some that we dug up, see if you remember them. They show them to him. He says, well, yeah, I guess they're mine. I mean, I don't remember this. I did go to the rally. The rally was by my house, and I just took some pictures. Do you have a particular interest in the signs? He says, well, I thought they were interesting. And you said you live right down the street from there. You live at 1 United Nations Plaza. Yeah. So the rally was in the neighborhood. And so the government says, yeah, it was in his neighborhood. He's a New Yorker and a teacher. So it was a New York moment. He just went outside there. So he's not biased at all. So he leaves. Judge Mercan says, well, he told us he thought it was a women's rally, but he tagged it as a massive anti-Trump rally. And so we've come too far in this case to take a chance. So I'm going to grant a challenge for cause on that. Judge boots him. Now, next juror, look at his tweets, says Nicholas. Look at these. Next juror comes out. He says he wrote that Trump is an egomaniacal incompetent. The juror wrote that I actually believe that he is actually the devil. Okay, juror's like, no, I literally think he is Satan incarnate. Literally. I posted that. Says, okay, bring in 561. She comes in. Ma'am, you said you didn't post anything. The lawyers found something. Are these your posts? She says, well, these are not my posts. Are you sure? It says you wrote that Trump is the devil. Do you still feel that, madam? 561 says, yeah, more or less. So this woman, okay, already made it this far. She didn't excuse herself from the first round. So she thinks Trump is the devil, is trying to get onto the jury panel, gets caught, lies about her posts, gets caught. They bring her in here. She finally comes clean. Okay, she was very close to being on the jury. They didn't find those posts. If she was smart enough to delete them or, make her account private or whatever, may not have found them. So it's curious, right? These people are telling us that they're very fair and impartial, that they can make it through. They, raise their hands and get on through the next one, but boom, then they're busted. Weird. Next one, 561. So he says, okay, look, she's excused for cause, clearly. And so 556 is alternate 5. What about seat 18? Prosecution nukes that guy. Seat 18's gone. Seat 20 becomes alternate number 6. So boy, sounds like we've got a full panel. Judge says, okay, you're peremptory, you're done. You're out of peremptories, you're out of peremptories. We're good. Bring them back in. Clerk brings them back in. Jurors pile in. Okay, they say alternate 2, you're B44. Alternate 3, you're B616, and so on. Is this satisfactory to the people? Government says yes. To the defense, yes. Jury is sworn in. Now the trial will start back up 9:30 on Monday with this jury listening to everything. And this was reported to us by Inner City Press. Matthew Russell Lee reporting. Of course, be sure to follow him everywhere you see on the screen. But we have our jury, and it's always surprising to see how many people have been squeezing through the initial round trying to squeak themselves on, and then they get busted. And what if they never got caught? Well, they would have been on there in the panel. So New York is now underway. Opening arguments will be starting here on Monday. We're going to be covering it in depth, my friends, going through the excerpt transcripts just like we've done here. So thank you for subscribing and joining us as we do. Also, don't forget to check out some of the links down in our description below. Places like watchingthewatchers.locals.com is our members-only community. We do streams in the morning, 6 days a week, including on Saturdays. We'd love to have you join us. It's a great way to meet new people, get some extra content and some other things that we can't talk about or get into here, and it's a great way to support our show as well. So thanks for doing that. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'll see you over there and back here on the next one.